More than ever before, high-profile individuals are using their platform to try persuading and influencing others who don't think they have a voice of their own. High-profile individuals know they have a strong following. At times, they abuse that privilege by thinking they can say or do what they want and get away with it. Those individuals are not fooling anyone who choose to think for themselves and speak for others who may struggle to find their own voice. The sole purpose of this presentation is to help others see and hear what many haven't considered due to only looking on the surface, or are too afraid to speak up because they value social acceptance over what is right. That is just one reason there are so many social problems in today's society, especially through social online media. Be a part of the solution instead of being a part of the problem. Start by not conforming to what is popular and trendy. Choose to be brave by standing for what is right. If you don't stand for something, you will fall for anything. Hello everyone. I have worked in the entertainment industry for 4 years with a fairly good understanding of what it takes to be an entertainer. I also have a deeper understanding and strong skills in fine art and digital art for over 30 years. I also worked with people with different behavioral disorders for 10 years, then continued to study different behaviors and disorders 15 years after I decided to transition from my profession to the digital arts. At one time, I considered becoming an art therapist, but I considered that I don't think I could handle getting lost in other people's problems on a daily basis. So I stuck with digital art media, while occasionally taking on psychology and philosophy, another area that I have always found interest in. With that said, today I'm going to discuss certain celebrities using eccentric behavior in order to gain more attention from the media and their fans because they are not currently getting attention from Hollywood. It's kind of like a spoiled, rotten child who doesn't get what they want from one parent who chooses not to give in to their manipulative ways. So they will go to the other parent who they know will cater more attention to them until they get what they want. In this case, I will be discussing the fairly recent eccentric behaviors of former actor-comedian Jim Carrey, who proclaims to be enlightened by pretending he never existed, as he utilizes fine art as just one way to escape from outer pressures and personal issues he has battled for most of his life. Meanwhile, he maintains in the media spotlight for his most recent views on life and his behavior toward others that follow. Many support his eccentric views, and many think he is going through an identity crisis.
We are going through that lens on the iPhone.
Not really.
Not really?
No.
I think we are.
We're just
I think
a cluster
people,
of tetrahedrons
people
soaked in desperation.
You know, we spend our whole lives trying to invent ourselves and trying to figure out, you know, what this is, you know, and it's just a collection of abstract ideas, you know, from your ethnic background to your nationality to your, you know, whatever, all of that stuff. Those are all ideas you've been given. At the end of it, you might be successful, but you're unhappy and you don't know why, because, oh, this thing didn't work. This is not a real thing. It's something I cobbled together. And well, then what is the real thing? Neither of us exist. And we're energy. We're one giant field of energy dancing for itself. It means we're all going nowhere. It's a big pageant of nothing rising out of nothing and happening for no one. And once you understand that, all the pressure's off and you can just enjoy yourself. I don't believe in icons. I don't believe in personalities. I believe that peace lies beyond personality, beyond invention and disguise. Beyond the red S that you wear on your chest that makes bullets bounce off. I believe that it's deeper than that. I believe we're a field of energy dancing for itself. And I don't care.
But Jim, you got really dressed up for the occasion. You look good.
No, I didn't.
Was that an
get dressed
accident?
up. I didn't get dressed up.
Who did?
There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
We're not here. This is a dream?
There's just things happening. And there are clusters of tetrahedrons moving around together.
Okay.
Yes.
So what's happening in our world right now? Because there is a lot of news that actually is relevant that's not that
Here's
uplifting.
the thing. It's not our world.
None
That's
of this
the
is
key.
real?
Nope.
So you're just passing
We don't
through.
matter. We don't matter.
Oh, wow.
There's the good news.
Those who support his views have not taken everything into consideration of what Jim Carrey has struggled with most of his acting career, and they are only seeing what he is experiencing as of today on the surface. Those who support him are huge fans of his, of course. So are those who show real concern for his overall well-being and do not condone some of the things he says and does. Have you heard the term frenemy? A frenemy is someone who will support anything others say and do, even though they know some things said and done can be harmful, because they don't want to cause any arguments or problems in the friendship. Frenemies are always willing to stand up for those who they consider a friend, but they hardly ever stand up to those who are saying and doing harmful things towards themselves and others. How many people in your life do you know that fit the description of a frenemy? They aren't being a real friend when they cater to everything the person is saying and doing. Neither are some of Jim Carrey's fans who are supporting him in everything he says and does, all because they don't want him or anyone else to dislike him or her, because they desire social acceptance. Those who observe what is truly going on are the brave, honest ones who care more about those bringing harm to themselves than caring about what is socially acceptable according to modern day trends. Social media through the internet has contributed toward many individuals developing habits of short attention span. Many will adhere to social media trends of defiance and rude behavior, all for show and wanting to feel validated in order to socially fit in with others. It has been an ongoing trend for the past 20 years or so, and seems to only be getting worse over time. That is the wrong way to gain respect and attention from others, and no one should support that kind of behavior, ever. When it comes to supporting a famous person's eccentric, outspoken behavior, there's one person who has really made himself stand out through one of his YouTube videos that gained worldwide attention, all because of his own fan base that he has built up through his own profession. I'm talking about a man named Richard Williams, otherwise known as Prince EA, meaning Prince of the Earth.
I see all these headlines. Jim Carrey goes insane. Jim Carrey freaks out. No, ladies and gentlemen, he is not trolling. He has not gone crazy. Jim Carrey is, as the cool kids say, woke.
I didn't get dressed up.
Who did?
There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
He is saying that the me, who we take ourselves to be, the ego, the story, is just a story. It's not real.
Do you believe in icons? I don't believe in personalities. I don't believe that you exist, but there is a wonderful fragrance in the air.
Personality, person, coming from the Greek word persona, meaning mask, is fake, and the ancients knew this.
Is that an accident?
I didn't get dressed up.
Who did?
There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
We're not here. This is a dream.
It's just things happening.
See, the ego or the I thought likes to take credit. The I thought is like that kid in class who we worked on group projects with. They didn't do anything except put their name on the paper and take credit. Okay, so the shortest path to knowing who you are is knowing what you are not. So my first question is, can you be the subject and the object at the same time? Kind of a stupid question, right? The answer is no. What you perceive, you cannot be. Because see, there is the perceiver and then there is the perceived, the subject and the object. Well, I have a body, I drive this body, so I am not this body. Why do I confuse myself to be my body? It's my body, my body. Me, and then there's body. Make sense? Who you are cannot be contained in the mind because it contains the mind. The mind can never contain it. You can know many things, but you can never mentally know the true self. You can only stay as the true self. The stillness, the beingness, the nothingness, emptiness, pure awareness, space. And so I just want to thank Jim Carrey for being a vehicle to express this obvious, self-evident, ancient and beautiful truth.
Richard preaches against fame, vanity, selfishness, ignorance, and violence through his thought-provoking videos and public speeches. I applaud Richard for wanting to share messages that are a problem in today's society, but in recent history, he attempted to validate and explain Jim's eccentric behavior as nothing more than an ancient belief system.
No, ladies and gentlemen, he is not trolling. He has not gone crazy. Jim Carrey is, as the cool kids say, woke. He is saying what Jesus, the Buddha, the gurus have said for thousands of years,
while not considering all the personal struggles Jim has gone through that led up to what Jim thinks he is today.
I've read a couple of places where you said you've struggled with depression from time to time.
I was on Prozac for a long time. Yep, I was on Prozac for a long time, and I'm not sure. I mean, it may have helped me out of a jam for a little bit, but people stay on it forever. You know, I had to get off at a certain point because I realized that, you know, everything's just okay.
No peaks and valleys.
There are peaks, there are valleys, but they're all kind of carved and smoothed out, and it feels like a low level of despair you live in.
A lot of people think that, you know, I'm kind of going through something, but it's been my whole life, you know, and they go like, well, it's a reaction to depression. He's dealt with depression his whole life. Depression only happens when you don't accept what is, and when you're playing a character, you know, in life. So when I tried to go back and play Jim Carrey, I got depressed, and now I don't try to do that anymore. You know, what am I is the central question. You know, why am I here? What am I? You know, I don't exist. So they're all characters that I've played, including Jim Carrey, including Joel Barish, including any of those things. They're all characters.
Everyone's got their own fight or flight response, reacting the best way they know, in order to find other ways of personal survival and comfort. With that said, here's a quote that comes from former CEO and founder of Apple products, Steve Jobs. Your time is limited, so don't waste it on living someone else's life. Don't be trapped by dogma, which is living with the results of other people's thinking. Don't let the noise of others' opinions drown out your own inner voice. Most important, have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. What Steve Jobs said is so important, especially to those still trying to find their inner voice, as they look for positive role models to help them get started out in life. Everyone eventually has to choose what works best for them, or what they think will help them. I'm tired of actors thinking they can use their status and platform to say and do whatever they want, while either offending people or trying to influence others to believe what they believe.
You do what you can, but ultimately, you gotta remember that it's not who you are. This is not who we are. You know, we're in an absolute sense every freaking thing that you see is you, and you are so, you know, beyond immense, beyond imagining. You know, so that's where I live. I live outside my body, in it too, but outside it. So I don't get hung up on what's going to happen to this character too much. Yeah.
Just because they have a gift to persuade an audience through entertainment, that doesn't mean they can or should try to persuade others in real life. Certain behaviors coming from some actors should never be accepted or dismissed, just because they are a comedian or performer, chalked up as just another performance of theirs. I don't want to pick on entertainers alone or pass judgment on all of them, because there are some level-headed, respectful entertainers out there. Most entertainers seek attention and recognition whether they are an athlete, singer, or actor. Some actors look forward to playing a different character role in order to escape their everyday life or tragic events they went through. Some actors will use their profession as their form of personal therapy because they have a difficult time without it. For some, it becomes their go-to euphoric state of mind and feeling. The same way an artist feels after spending a few to several hours creating art. Some roles that actors play, they will have to revisit past traumatic events that already took place in their life. Those moments in their life to reenact situations they were hoping to leave in their past can be learning opportunities. That's if they allow themselves to be vulnerable during the acts and roles that are called for, and not just put up walls and just pretend. Most people, once in a while, especially actors, need professional assistance through counseling aside from their own profession to help them to see things from a different perspective they may not have thought of. Some actors maintain a sense of who they are while carrying strong traditions and values they are perfectly content with. They know how to be themselves while not on camera. Other actors may struggle with morals and standards as they experiment with risky behavior. Some actors will neglect themselves as they try their best to please others because they believe that is part of their job. Please the fans and they will continue to support you. Give a monkey a peanut and he will dance for you, metaphorically speaking. I'm sure that is how many actors feel at times, when crazed fans only look to be entertained, get their autograph and picture with them, as they don't want to get to know them as a person. Jim Carrey has expressed in recent interviews about how he experienced those situations. He performed in front of audiences and in front of cameras for well over 30 years. Jim expressed how he got so tied up with portraying different characters that he forgot who he was, gradually leading him into depression because he was living outside of himself for so long.
I thought I was just building something that people would like, but it was a character, so it's, I played the guy that was free from concern so that people who watched me would be free from concern.
Jim mentioned in a 2004 interview that he struggled with ADHD and bipolar disorder and was taking Prozac for many years to help alleviate some of the depressive symptoms he was going through. That is until he decided to no longer take it and cope in other ways. Jim's way of coping with depression didn't stop there. He admits to smoking marijuana for many years.
I was standing some nights by myself with Richard Pryor in the parking lot,
Wow.
and going, I can't believe I'm standing with Richard Pryor, and he would tell me inside stuff, We were passing a joint one night, and he said, careful with that. I don't remember 40 years of my life.
Were you doing a ton of drugs when you were in the in the 70s, sort of coming?
I experimented. It was never a big thing for me. I went in and out. Pot was kind of a compulsive thing for me. I tended to go away and just me and my apple bong.
Would you go on stage high? Never.
I only went up maybe twice after smoking a joint, and I slaughtered the house. I
really
annihilated everybody. At one point, Kinnison was at the back of the room, and he was just for fun heckling me and stuff, and I was killing him. I was killing everybody, and I walked off stage, and they said, "Wow, what the hell was that?" And I said, "I'm high."
It sounds like Jim either rarely found time to properly take care of himself, or he didn't know where to start because he was so wrapped up in a lot of time-consuming acting jobs. Jim struggling with depression through ADHD and bipolar disorder certainly didn't make life easier for him either. I worked with kids for 7 years that struggled with ADHD, bipolar, autism, schizophrenia, all sorts of spectrum of different disorders. I watched and worked with kids every day going through those motions, just living one moment at a time, trying their best to get through the day without losing their cool. So I have a pretty good understanding of what someone is struggling through that lives with it. Although Jim enjoyed entertaining people and loved the attention as most actors do, he has expressed in recent years that he no longer wants to be a part of Hollywood lifestyle. It was too demanding for his independent and free-spirited nature. So he decided to leave Hollywood and start on a new path of experiencing life in a different way.
What you do in life chooses you. You can choose not to do it. You can choose to try to do something safer. Your vocation chooses you.
Right there, he expressed two contradicting messages. You can choose what you want to do, but your vocation chooses you.
I found myself looking around at one point in a really bleak winter in New York, and it was just so depressing, and I think I needed color. You can tell what I love by the color of the paintings. You can tell my inner life by the darkness in some of them.
I read all the messages he painted into one of his dark, depressing paintings, and there are a lot of feelings of abandonment, grief, and abuse in them.
When I was a kid, I spent half my time in the living room performing for people. I spent the other half the time in my bedroom by myself, writing poetry and sketching. I was not the type of kid you could say, as a punishment, go to your room, because my room was heaven to me. My isolation was welcome.
I can relate to Jim Carrey in that sense. When I wasn't playing video games or skateboarding, I was drawing, writing poetry, and entertaining family during gatherings or at random moments.
I sketched all the time, but I didn't do a lot of painting. Suddenly, 6 years ago, at a time when I was trying to heal a broken heart, I decided, well, maybe I'll paint.
When your heart is in love, you're floating, weightless. But when you lose that love, you have to re-enter the atmosphere. And it can get pretty rough. You're just bouncing off one molecule and onto the next, ripping through them at such a pace that they just ignite and explode. Until you find another heart that's doing the same thing, has landed and cooled, and then you start to float again.
That was Jim's way of expressing his own heart re-entering the playing field of finding love once again, after he put up personal barriers for quite some time.
Paintings of Jesus are really my desire to convey Christ consciousness. I wanted you to have the feeling when you looked in his eyes that he was accepting of who you are. I wanted him to be able to stare at you and heal you from the painting.
I look at that painting and see chaos, vulnerability, anger, forced silence, and bewilderment. I'm going to take a good guess from understanding what many actors go through in Hollywood and say, this is more than likely what Jim was experiencing for many years through the entertainment industry and kept to himself until recently.
I don't know what painting teaches me. I know that it just frees me. Free from the future, free from the past, free from regret, free from worry.
When he was saying freedom from the past, it shows a painting of a man behind bars with a butterfly on his finger as he was reaching out. The arm looks strikingly similar to his own arm and hand. Perhaps he used his own arm and hand as a model. In the painting, a message was written in big bold lettering from top to bottom and that said, in that moment, he was freed from the prison of becoming. From becoming. I find that pretty interesting. Whether I'm right or wrong, I believe Jim Carrey was portraying himself behind bars in that painting. I analyze that painting as Jim feeling guilty about something or feeling psychologically and emotionally trapped from a variety of different things that he was going through in his past. One major event that could be haunting him to this day is the death of his past girlfriend. end, only the jury can decide in April of 2018 whether or not Jim spread STDs to his then girlfriend, knew he was carrying them, and didn't tell her. Only the jury will determine whether or not Jim provided her with the drugs that she decided to take her own life with. If he's found guilty for those charges, Jim Carrey may not be responsible for her taking her own life, but he very well may have been an accessory by providing her with the drugs and giving her serious STDs that can be life-altering. Only the jury can decide whether he is guilty or not. We will see what happens in April of 2018. When Jim said in his documentary, Free from Regret, a painting he created showed bars of gold spelling out the words, more, 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 more. In other words, the greed of people in general, including him struggling to resist more wealth? Perhaps more fame and attention? When Jim said, free from worry, a painting he created showed a pool of sharks swarming in swirls of different colored paint, with their dorsal fins above the water's surface. I interpret that as him being worried about loan sharks or people who want to sue him, wanting to take his money and everything he has, because he is facing a trial with serious allegations for a wrongful death of his girlfriend. Whether you take Jim seriously or not, he is very profound when he wants to share a message with everyone. He makes it quite clear and obvious for those who pay extra close attention.
I believe every single thing that you see and hear is talking to you.
Here's the thing, it's not our world.
None of this is real?
Nope.
So you're just passing
We don't
through?
matter. We don't matter.
Oh, wow.
There's the good news.
Jim finalizes in his statements by saying,
You know, the bottom line with all of this, whether it's performance or it's art or it's sculpture, is love. We want to show ourselves and have that be accepted.
Meanwhile, during interviews, Jim is adamant that no one exists and that wanting to find success through accomplishments, be loved and admired, are all just ideas that come from the construct of humans because of the ego having a need. After I heard him contradict himself between his documentary and interviews, I was thinking, what an egotistical, twisted way to seek attention while trying to mess with people's heads. Something is seriously wrong with him. If he can't get attention through acting gigs, he's hungry to get attention in other ways. The man needs help. As of right now, he's pushing more people away than attracting, which is probably exactly what he wants right now, unless he's getting paid for interviews. Don't take this personal, but it's something to really think about. Those who are listening and believing everything Jim Carrey says need to do some self-reflecting of their own, because they are only being followers who are seeking social acceptance, or they are struggling to find themselves, as Jim Carrey has for many years. Jim Carrey is personally struggling to find himself. That is why you're hearing him contradict himself a lot lately. He said in a recent interview that he is trying to figure out how to not exist in a world where most people value existence and acceptance.
The crisis is, how do I articulate the fact that I don't exist in a world where everybody finds value in not only existing, but making people believe that there's something incredible.
Meanwhile, he tries to reject the idea of existing as he continues to accept and look for interview opportunities.
How did it impact you playing Andy Kaufman?
I think that it showed me that there were characters being played everywhere. That, you know, that as an actor you play characters, and then if you go deep enough into those characters, you realize that your own character is pretty thin to begin with. You know, and then you suddenly have this separation and go, well, who's Jim Carrey? Oh, he doesn't exist, actually.
Does that make you a person who's more at peace with yourself as you don't exist? If I can put it in your own construct.
Doesn't make me a person, but
does it make you?
There
Does
is
it make
peace.
you?
Yeah, there's peace, and there's gratitude, and there's wonder, and there's excitement, and all of it is happening and rising out of nowhere and happening for no one.
Do you see the struggle between him wanting seclusion and seeking attention? He pretends to not exist, meanwhile seeking attention from others, which requires existence. Jim admits that there is still a drive inside him for attention and displaying cleverness, share messages of what he thinks life is all about, while he is occasionally imposing his newfound views on others.
There's grooves that are cut pretty deep, you know, from my entire life. There's still an energy that wants to be admired and wants to be clever, and there's still an energy that wants to free people from concern. Mm-hmm. And now it goes further. I want to, you know, kind of relate what this is to people so that maybe they can also kind of glimpse the abyss.
Jim Carrey has been dealing with identity crisis for years, as he mentioned in a past interview.
Because there is no me, no self. Jim Carrey is gone, actually never existed, and I know that now. So I'm able to take gigantic chances with this thing that people know as Jim Carrey.
During a recent interview in Canada, Jim showed a lot of expression of joy and happiness as he talked about how he got started in the entertainment business with his dad's support.
Was it like an amazing experience when he first saw you on stage? Seeing you like
Well,
perform?
it's funny because he was always there, you know, he was always there to encourage me to get up in front of the company or throw myself down a flight of stairs, whatever, in slow motion. And he said, well, where do you see this? Where do you see this? Because I became what was special about the family.
Right.
I won a speech contest, a Halton County speech contest. When I was, I believe, that was grade 6. Oh, wow. And about comedy. Yeah. And I did, and I learned how to do ventriloquism for it, and I bought a little dummy and you know, learned about all the different types of comedy, did some research about spoonerisms and whatever else that I could talk about, and I won the contest, and you know, I was so flabbergasted, but the greatest memory of it was that my father was in the front row, and as soon as they announced that I had won, he went, ah! Like this, and his dentures from the top fell to the bottom. He went, ah! Like that. And that's the image that I have. Like my first giant victory on stage is my father's dentures falling.
He really seemed to enjoy the spotlight then. Jim explains how his dad was quite the comedian that gained everyone's attention and that he wanted to be just like his dad.
I was looking at a man named Percy, my dad, who was the most incredible character that you'd ever meet. If you met him for 5 minutes, you thought you knew him for 50 years. Wow. And he wrapped everyone that came into our house in stories and jokes, and they left my house always with pea stains and going like, Percy, oh man, you missed your calling, Percy, you missed your calling, like that. And you know, so I became his calling at a certain point, and he was always super behind me. But from the first time I can remember, him just lighting up the room, you know, and him just like wrapping everybody in a story or whatever, and going, oh, that's the thing I want to do. You know, that's what I want to be.
When Jim discovered Andy Kaufman, he saw a character that was very different from all the other characters he was used to portraying.
Andy Kaufman was like just kind of a odd, like at first, like everybody with Andy, is like, what am I watching here? I'm used to Carol Burnett, and I'm used to people presenting themselves, and I am so-and-so, and here's my gig, you know? And this guy just twisted it all around. He didn't care about the form, and he was a challenge to form itself. So I had to process it, and then I just went, I really like this.
Andy encouraged people to think beyond what they have already accepted, to see things in a completely different way. That is when Jim decided that he wanted to challenge himself and others to do the same, to free themselves from concern.
I want to challenge your beliefs. I want to challenge the properness of this occasion, or whatever it is, and throw it on its head in a way that you can accept and love, and it'll free you. So I've been in the business of freeing people from concern. I call it the Church of FFC, Freedom from Concern. You know, and that's been my ministry my whole life.
Jim claims that has been his ministry his entire life, even though he struggled to know his true identity while pleasing others for most of his career. Jim certainly did have a lot of concerns while working in Hollywood, meanwhile being the funny guy to help others temporarily free themselves from concern. When mentioned how Andy Kaufman didn't want to be categorized and asked Jim if people can learn by refusing to do what they are told, Jim responds,
I don't think they need to go out to do it. I just think it's in your nature, or it isn't in your nature, you know.
Ironically, Jim played in the movie titled Yes Man. Jim may have been a yes man while working in Hollywood, but now he's taken a long or permanent break, depending on what he chooses to do. Jim jumped ahead of further questions during the interview and said,
I don't want to see the same old thing.
Right.
And I think there's a ton of people out there that don't want to see the same old thing. It's very strange because I've been sharing things that, you know, lately about what I believe and stuff that are really kind of, maybe a few years ago might have been like, okay, Jim, yeah, well, maybe we'll join you on that planet someday. People are all kind of for the most part, accepting of another kind of way of looking at things, or letting go of character.
Jim mentioned how he gave a speech at a Broadway show. He was expected to encourage others by telling them,
yeah, we're important, and you're supposed to say, it's all going to be all right, and you're supposed to say that, you know, whatever you dream can come true, and you're supposed to say all those things.
He didn't say that, though. Instead, he preached a depressing message
and started talking about the river of tears that we all have to face, and eventually, and that we're all avoiding, and how at the other side there's, you know, that your body can survive it, but you can't, and you're better off without a you or an I.
In other words, letting go of your ego. Jim adds,
I do believe in manifestation, power of that kind of stuff, but I don't believe that any of it matters. You know, this mattering is to me a human construct, born out of a need, the same need as you have to have, you know, deities and things like that. I mean, I believe in an energy of God, an energy of, you know, everything is divine. You know, there's just not, there's no thing that isn't divine. Everything is divine, and I'm that. I'm not the body. I'm you guys, and I'm this thing, and I'm this thing, and I'm the cameras, and it doesn't matter to me what's happening on them.
Jim mentions that other people will approach and tell him that they don't want to be themselves either. His response to them was,
well, great, because you never have been.
Yeah, that's really reassuring. Wherever Jim is getting his spiritual, divine information from, it certainly doesn't help build anyone's confidence and self-esteem. Those messages he's imposing does more harm than good for those who are still going through their self-discovery and confidence-building phase of their life, which is really important, especially for kids. I know this because I was a kid, and I was a mentor for kids for 7 years through different programs. I know how important it is for people in general to build character and self-esteem as they are discovering what they are going through in life. When asked if this is something he has always believed, or has there been a shift in his beliefs, Jim's response was,
the knowledge has been evolving, you know, and I believe that I had to become a famous, you know, idea.
Yeah.
And get all the stuff that people dream about, and accomplish a bunch of things that you know, that look like success, in order to give up my attachment to those things. It's been a part of the evolution of ego, is to spend your first half of your life acquiring and adding, thinking you can add to yourself, and it looks great. I mean, it looks great when you got a cool car and you got nice clothes, and you know, and you've done something that people admire, you know, but it can never fulfill you. You can never be happy. You know what I mean? It's not where happiness comes from.
I agree with him that money and possessions can't buy happiness. However, I can see some people really struggling with this, who are constantly critical of themselves, struggle with addiction, and crave attention, just like Jim Carrey and some actors struggle with. Immediately after that, Jim adds,
and you know, I dealt with depression, you know, a few years ago, and people still think, well, he's going through, you can tell he's depressed, and it's not. I have no depression in my life whatsoever. Literally none. I have sadness and joy and elation and satisfaction and gratitude beyond belief, but all of it is weather. and it just spins around the planet. You know, it doesn't sit on me long enough to kill me.
When Jim was asked if he has a happy place, he laughed and said,
"The happy place is realizing that you're everything, you know, and that there's no real you involved in the first place."
It's just ideas. Right. They're just ideas. You know, the only thing that separates you from an African American or an African Canadian is an idea. You know, and the weather. Right. You know, and the adaptation to the climate, and whatever it is, I don't believe in any of it, and so the feeling of wholeness is a different feeling than meanness.
Personally, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking pride in yourself and excitement for your achievements, as long as you continue to be gracious and humble in character. Anyone who mocks that and tears it down is having a difficult time finding happiness and gratitude for what they already have. When asked about the character he played in films, being the emotional states he was currently in, were you looking for those characters, or were those characters developed from the state of mind you were in during those times? Jim's response was,
They're attracted to whatever that magnetism is at that time. You know, I don't really look for things, and it's the same with painting and sculpting and whatever. I'll just start, and it happens that later on, my subconscious mind told me something, just like the scripts tell me something about where I was at, you know, and so they find me.
That's where script writers come into play and hire actors for certain roles, so they don't have to think about or write stories for the roles they take. Jim mainly just acted and performed for those roles that he was given. From what I'm hearing, Jim believes he's not in control, not in the driver's seat of his own vehicle. He just does what comes to mind and inspires him. Jim immediately felt compelled to follow up with an explanation of sadness versus depression.
People talk about depression all the time. The difference between depression and sadness is just, you know, from happenstance. Whatever happened or didn't happen for you, or, you know, grief or whatever it is. And depression is your body saying, fuck you, I don't want to be this character anymore. I don't want to hold up this avatar that you've created in the world. It's too much for me. Right. You know? And so a friend of mine who's a spiritual teacher has a really good take. His name is Jeff Foster, and his take on it is that they should change, you know, you should think of the word of depressed as deep rest. Deep rest. Your body needs to be depressed. It needs deep rest from the character that you've been trying to play.
In other words, Jim is tired of being someone and doing things that make others happy. He just wants to and needs to spend more time to himself in order to do what makes him happy. Jim Carrey still exists. He just needs to accept that humans are highly advanced human beings that have the ability to think, feel, believe, and heal. Everyone has the ability to make choices. All he has to do is find that part of him and embrace it once again. Oftentimes, the only way out is through. There's no way around it. I believe entertainers who seek enlightenment in different ways in order to escape their daily lives want to share the messages they receive and pass it along because it has brought them peace of mind. What some individuals forget, what is currently working for them will not be suitable for everyone because everyone learns differently at different levels and paces. It's nice that there are plenty of people out there who care enough to share the experiences they are going through, but they should just leave it at that and allow others to make their own decisions. No one truly knows what others are thinking and going through, or what currently drives them, unless they decide to share it with you, like Jim Carrey has done through interviews and his art documentary. I say to former actor Jim Carrey and anyone else who struggles with attention seeking, 1. Keep your beliefs to yourself and don't try to impose or influence others to believe the same. If you are using the media and fan base attention for personal support from past mistakes while escaping through different forms of therapy, the mature, responsible thing to do instead would be to talk with a trusted friend or communicate with a personal counselor and not share your problems with the rest of the world. 2. Be respectful of other people's beliefs and feelings. Don't push your beliefs on others. You can share what you believe and why, But don't assume others will accept or go along with what you believe at the moment. That is your personal choice and what you want to believe, not what most people think. 3. Don't fill people's heads with beliefs you are choosing just because you find that it suits you. If you are going through your own personal identity crisis, others definitely should not follow your lead, try it, or believe what you are saying. Those are your personal situations that you need to figure out for yourself, not others. Most actors are used to receiving undivided attention through entertainment. They shouldn't confuse entertainment attention with real-life therapeutic attention that some actors need more than anyone else. To Jim Carrey, everyone deals with their own healing process differently. You are a human being with a lot of talent, thoughts, and emotion. It sounds like you decided to suppress connecting yourself with others on a deeper personal level a long time ago, because you have gone through great loss in your personal and professional life. So you're using this ideal of non-existence and art therapy as a shield to not get hurt while finding reassurance. Look, I get it. I've been through it a few times. Art has helped me through some pretty rough patches in my life, but I certainly didn't use it as an escape. In fact, it helped me reflect on who I was, what I was going through, and what I wanted out of life. Art has helped me re-energize my drive and ambitions that I was always passionate about. How you are going through these personal struggles while discovering ways to cope may be comfortable for you at the moment. It may seem easier, but it won't be the most beneficial way of dealing with your losses and mistakes in the long run. You have the right to learn and grow from your past and move forward however you choose. But if you try to hide from or stuff down your past, you will continue to stay in the same place of expressing pain, sadness, and resentment that will manifest through your art. I hope one day you can learn to trust others once again, but only when you are ready to fully trust yourself and others can trust you. Don't forget the valuable lesson you learned from the movie Liar Liar. There's a lot of morals in the story to that film. I sure hope you continue to find peace in your life, Jim. If you truly want to transition into a new dimension of enlightenment, you need to spend more time alone and away from the media, away from everyone else's concerns, especially when you are trying to preach to everyone how to free themselves from concern. Free yourself from everyone else's concerns, away from the media first, Jim. Then you will find yourself being able to fully free yourself from your own concerns on what others think you are going through. People do care about you, but what you do with your personal life should be of no one else's concern. Everyone needs room to grow without being judged and looked at, because everyone is on their own path of discovery. Good luck, Jim, with all your future endeavors, and everyone else who may be struggling with personal identity crisis or any other personal struggles they may be going through. Surround yourself with the dreamers and the doers, the believers and the thinkers, but most of all, surround yourself with those who see greatness within you, even when you don't see it yourself. I find it sad how Jim Carrey doesn't think he exists. I can understand why he doesn't want anything to do with his life within Hollywood. As a metaphor, Jim compares his life to the great and powerful Oz, who was really only a man behind a curtain, pretending to be something he really was not.
I'm the great and powerful Oz. How dare you come near me? You know, kind of thing. And you're just the sweaty guy behind the curtain going, It's an amazing metaphor, you know, in that movie.
If he feels he was a nobody behind a stage larger than life, then he truly is lost. I wish him well. I truly do wish him well. Jim Carrey thinks he's at peace with rejecting himself by pretending to be no one and just be one with the universe. Jim getting lost in painting sounds like a cry out for help to me, that he's escaping from something on a much deeper level. In another interview, he said he tried revisiting an old friend, Jim Carrey, only to feel depressed while trying to figure out who he is.
Depression only happens when you don't accept what is and when you're playing a character, you know, in life. So when I tried to go back and play Jim Carrey, I got depressed. And now I don't try to do that anymore.
If his natural emotions serve the same as many longtime actors have been through, he must feel he missed out on a lot of opportunities and things that normal childhood would offer. That would explain why he's taken a lot of time to himself while painting and doing things he didn't get to do while growing up, while not having too much responsibility. Jim can find peace in his life without having to accept what drove him away, as long as he calls the shots in his life and not be told what to do. Fine art is a step in the right direction for that, as long as he's not just using art as a means to escape from his past, and he continues to use art in more ways to help guide and fulfill him. Maybe one day Jim will once again find joy in bringing laughter to others, because he sure seemed happy doing that. I'm not just saying that from an audience perspective, but from the joy I saw in his face as he expressed how much fun he had entertaining others early in his career. As long as Jim can separate the ego from acting and being himself, I think he will be alright if he chooses to go back into acting one day. As in Dr. Phil's own words, you can get a pretty good idea of someone's future behavior by looking at their past behavior. That may be true for many in different ways, but may not be true for everyone, especially those who learn from their mistakes, even though habits are difficult for many to break. Thank you for listening, and I hope you find value in the understanding and research I presented for those who work or have worked in the entertainment industry. Thanks.